ladies and gentlemen, the Niagara Police Band.
tired of it, mate. Yeah, I know.
Bro.
Dirk's got it up. He's gonna turn this stick. Dirk had a good feel for it. And many times what you'll see is the first try it doesn't end up where they want, but they know that they're up against both in field conditions and what that cable feels like for they're going over in their head what they need to do. So tomorrow morning, events start at 10:30 once again. Same time as today. Sunshine, Monday, crown champion, Canadian champion tomorrow, and then watch some grueling challenge events as well. Sure. Greg is no stranger to the caber. He's turned a few sticks in his day. Greg trains his lower body very hard for this. Obviously, you know he's got a strong upper body. You're going to see how strong his lower body is here. Wants to get that up. But he can handle it. That came from dedicated lower body training. Not those big strong arms as much as it is what he gets from his legs and his glutes.
And that's the heavier.
230.
I wasn't listening to that.
That was 230 on the clock. Once the athletes hear those pipes and drums going, it gives them a little extra adrenaline too. So we have one turn so far. Jason Johnston, 2010 Canadian champion, is used to turning the caber as well. Some kind of leverage he gets here. He's a very strong man. Good technique. He's looking to beat 230. Your eye on the stick, folks. It's heavy for him. Imagine what it is for you. Good round. He's got 2 more shots at it though. Jason knows how to do this. That's just ridiculous.
Again, just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that this evening's Natalie McMaster and Friends concert has been moved to the Heating Center on the St. FX University campus. The show will still begin at 7:30. Tickets are $29.99. Plenty still available. They can be bought at McKinnon's Pharmacy on Main Street here in Antigonish or at the door at the Heating Center.
77-degree toss there for Jason. Christoph Wand up next.
How long does that last?
2 hours.
Oh, 2 hours?
On the chip that's in there. You can put a bigger chip in if you need more time, but...
Okay. I think it's fine.
Oh, it's thick.
They're good?
Yeah, I have a bigger chip that holds 8 hours. You can get them up to 30.
Yeah, I get them here, but I always get video on this.
Oh, that's okay. He's got a feel for it. He knows what he's up against. Can you imagine that the guy's measuring down to 77 degrees? He's got some feet for 8 seconds, so he knows he's close to this. 80 degrees. degrees. We've had one turn so far in 30.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank
Lyons up. Powerful man. Tall, powerful. Strong lower body.
Again, just a reminder, as you can hear, the pipes and drums are tuning up. We'll have the Nova Scotia Pipe Band competition beginning at 2 p.m. just behind the heavy events field area here at Columbus Field. So again, the Nova Scotia Pipe Band competition gets up.
Isaiah Purley's been pushed into second place in this event by Scott Bishop, his New Brunswick countryman. Isaiah sitting with a 12-10, perfect pick. Help him get that 12 o'clock in. Let's go, Isaiah Purley. $11:55. He improves by 5 minutes. Oh, this is dramatic. This is my dramatic voice. Up now is Alex Bond, first-year competitor from Greenwald. Football anchor as well. Really coming in his own as a hammer thrower. $33 degrees. Head trade official Craig McDonald is going to pick up this game a bit. It won't really save us a lot from breaking, but it will protect the athletes on the shoulders and the hands when a couple of splinters. Time for Oxypose right now, drop the bicep. Well done. All right, Ben McGinnis from Pearl Brook in the second round of the caber toss. Now, the origin of the caber toss is subject of great debate. Some people claim it was a logging practice to get the log to flip into the center of the river. This is a really hard way to make that happen. Others claim that while the Romans were in Scotland for a short time, a perfectly flipped caber would have been a bridge or a ladder to climb up over the road of water. Good pull, Ben. 18 degrees. Ben's going to stand his caber now from Susie. Still others claim it was a fertility ritual. So think about that for yourselves. But we've kind of come to the conclusion, and we accept that it might have just been a drunken day. Susan Lajoie, 19 years old, from Middleton, Nova Scotia. Let it go, let it go. So, yay. As soon as the caber breaks the ground, as soon as you can fit a sheet of paper underneath it, that is an attempt. And Susie is having a little trouble with the width of the bottom of the caber. A lot of taller sticks are much narrower. It's easier to get the hand to do. So she can make some adjustments. Morrison now. All the way from Regina, Saskatchewan for this Canadian Championship, his second visit in English. This brings a good account to himself. You saw that one just land on his pinkies. 30 degrees for Sean Morrison. So you see everyone's really trying to avoid this hard strip of ground in the middle. You all want to land that nice, soft area. Judge Billy Moore's taught me long ago. Look for the lowest, wettest spot in the field. Of course, he usually taught me that from his head. the driest, coolest, most relaxing place. Here's Blake McGinnis. All you caffeine fiends might recognize him from the James Street Tim Hortons. He's a barista. Yes. Excellent pick. He's going to give that a little bounce so it's just the same. Oh, he's going to rest it on his knee. This is my 16th year, and I've never seen that before in my life. Well done. Big pull. Oh, big kick. Great job. 10:30. Great job, Blake. Good job. So it just dug into the ground just enough to get up and over. It's really important for these placings overall. This is our second last event in the crowning Canadian Championships.
I think I'm going to
In the
stay
two
here for my
divisions. Here's Ian Barclay. I think he's going to flip this one in a hurry. 12:05, I agree with that call very well. Good toss for you, Barclay. You got something to say to it, I'm just saying. It's right here. All right, Drew Garvey at a perfect 12 o'clock on his first attempt. And we mentioned Drew has been competing in the men's division on the circuit this year. He has pulled on some very, very big cavers. He's got to try to perfect his technique on this stick. In front of his girlfriend, Abby. $12 he's pretty good at this event, folks. 2 12 o'clocks for Drew. That was the economy of motion right there. Well done, sir. Now this very interesting, folks. On his first attempt, Scott Bishop had a something in the middle 60 degrees. On his second attempt, he had 12 o'clock perfect throw. But making on his heels 5 minutes away is Isaiah perfect. So Scott, if he wants to lock this event up tight, he needs another 12 o'clock right here, where the door is still open. The youngest man in the competition, among the most well coached. And again, help out Scott Bishop from Perth and over to Brunswick. All right. I think you got away from something over there. Maybe the main problem. All right, here's Liam Cal. Great pick, Liam, and explode. Oh, your best attempt, very good. 55-0. There's Billy Morris. Best attempt, Liam. That's great for your first year, buddy. You're good in the kill, too. Liam's going to be in the parade tomorrow. Invite everyone down. It's going to be a great event. 11 pipe bands. The prizes. I think that elite mile is going to be really exciting too. The 1 mile race that precedes the parade. I think that's a really good addition. Looking forward to it. Here's Patrick Lyons, third and final attempt on this 14-foot caber. He's a first-year competitor, folks. If he flips this, it'll be the biggest caber he's ever flipped. Hard lock. That's a foul throw. Everybody else thinks here's Frank McLeod. We know he wants this one pretty good. Bentley, when are you and I going to start fraction for that reason. It's true. All right, Frank McFarland. He wants a piece of this big stick. Come on now, Eddie. Help out your county boy from Winners Point. Quick feet. Set those hands in. Control, begin forward.
Break!
48 degrees. Good effort, Frank. Great control of that camera. Folks, that's exhausting too. That's among the worst dance partners you're ever going to have, aside from Craig McDonald. Nice haircut. All right, folks, Isaiah Purley. If Isaiah can throw at 12 o'clock, he will best Scott Bishop in this event, but he's got to be perfect. An 11:59 or a 12:01 does him no good. Let's see if he can hit the mark. How about Antigonish? This is for the Caber title in the novice division. Great control from Isaiah. Travels forward. It looked like a fight for 3 o'clock is the mark from Judge Donnie McCacker. 9 o'clock, equivalent. Very well. So folks, those ones where he waited so long takes a lot of power. It was a great job to get that over at all. There's Alex Bond. Great attempt, Alex. Well done. 43 degrees. Really explosive, Alex. Rounding out our novice competition is Ben McGinnis, third and final attempt in the 14-foot caber toss. Ben McGinnis, 6 feet tall, 218 pounds from Pearl Brook. A little bit further forward, huh? 15 degrees for Ben McGinnis. Here's Susan Lajoie's third and final attempt. Come on, folks, this caber weighs just about as much as... Just flip it. $25. Same thing, her hands separated there and traveled forward like a gentleman. That's a good pull for Susie, though. She's got a lot of power for these events. All right, Sean Morrison. 77 degrees for Sean Morrison. Great attempt from Sean Morrison. Cradle the caber in his hand. He's going to run forward, plant his feet, and pull. Wherever Scott's feet stop are at 6 o'clock on an imaginary clock face. Wherever the caber digs into the ground is the center of the clock, and he wants it to flip straight over to the 12 o'clock, which is a perfect throw. If he is unsuccessful in anything less than the 12 o'clock, the back judge will give a mark. And if the caber does not flip over, the side judge will give a mark in degrees. "62 degrees for Scott Bishop. Now the caber is an ultimately unique event. There is no analog in sport to a caber toss. Our stone throws were the precursor to the modern Olympic shot put. Our hammers are the precursor to the modern Olympic hammer. But the caber remains. Liam, be very careful by that trick, please. Right here, buddy. Well done. If a class of athletes is unable to flip the caber, we may be forced to cut a bit off the top, but we have some very good caber tosses here today. That shouldn't be an issue. And again, we do have our novice and senior divisions involved in this event, as well as the open women's competition. There's Liam Kell. "36 degrees for Liam. Bit late on the pole there. Here's Patrick Lyons. Is his feet moving? 39 degrees. So this is a shorter, heavier caber, and you'll see there's not much of a taper. It's almost like a pencil shape. It does not decrease in size.
Then I am not chasing you.
So in that case, the athletes really have to get it moving. You'll see some athletes take a much longer run to get the top end speed going. Plant the feet and explode. Frank McFarland's up now for his point, and he is an excellent caber tosser. That's a great deal of keep and leg power. And of utmost importance is the power. You cannot let the caber fall too far off the shoulder. The most common problem is pulling too close. These are young men and women involved in a sport and an event that goes back over 1,000 years. King Malcolm of Canmore, 11th century. After those quick feet to recover, it's not going to meet the caber and then it's going to walk forward. Good battle. 45 degrees. What we saw there was Frank's hands separated. So he's a bit sweaty there, didn't have the greatest grip, but he had great power. He ended up throwing it a bit away from himself. I know he's capable of this one. There's Isaiah Purley. So, as we mentioned, King Malcolm of Canmore in the 11th century is looking for a messenger. So one of the local festivals, they organized a race up and down the mountain. The winner of the race became the king's messenger. From there, we developed into the heavy events. When King Malcolm was looking for bodyguards, they tested these events in the field, and the strongest athletes of the day became bodyguards to the king. There's Isaiah Purley from Perth Andover, New Brunswick. Very nice high carry. Boom. 10 degrees off the perfect mark for Isaiah Purley. Well done. And folks, what that means is for this novice division, we cannot cut this cable. Now that one athlete has been successful, everyone must continue in this cable. Very well done, sir. That's a lot of hit power we're talking about. Next is Alan's ball. Excellent pick, Alex. So folks in the crowd, see how far away his feet are from the cable? It means he threw it away a bit like a javelin instead of throwing it up and over. Here's Ben McGinnis. Alex Bond is going to stand up. What was the mark on that one, Billy? 41 degrees for Alex Bond. Now, while it is a warm, sunny day here in Antigonish, and not overly warm, it's not the greatest conditions for caber tossing because the ground is so hard. We like a bit of soft, low ground so the caber will dig in. If it digs in 6 inches, it's effectively 6 inches short. So what we might see today is a lot of skipping. The caber tries to bite into the ground, but with a perfect throw. Here's Ben McGinnis, a fourth-year competitor from Pearl Brook. Football athlete. Whew. 15 degrees for Ben. We on the announcing and judging side are a bit nervous because this is the only cable we have for the young folks. And if it breaks, the party's over. That was kind of a dangerous one there. Here's Susie Lajoie in the women's competition. Susie has pulled on some big cabers in the past. Most everyone that comes out of Middleton is a successful caber tosser. Excellent lay down, Susie. Thanks very much. You're not endangering the caber. I suspect her hands are not clasped very tight on that one. Just a little bit of sweat, a little bead of sweat can really put you out of the running in this event. Again, all the athletes do have 3 attempts. Now, while this is only a 14-foot caber, Sean is from Saskatchewan. This is the biggest piece of wood he's ever seen. Big feet. 29 degrees. So it is a challenging stick for some of these athletes. It is hard to get your feet back underneath it. And as we mentioned earlier, you might go to a physical education class and learn how to throw a shot put. Hammer throwing is not that different from a baseball or softball swing. But this is a very, very delicate event here, the caber toss. There's Blake McGinnis. He's really taken to this event since it began this year. Practicing for a few months, getting ready for the big day here in Antigonish. Great pick. Line up. 67 degrees, another great attempt. And then Blake Becker has the horsepower to get this one over. As Ian Barclay comes up here, folks, we'd again like to thank our sponsors. including the Gilbert Fuels, L&M Highland Outfitters, Highcrest Enterprises, Fraser and Hoyt, the Cooperators, Cat Rentals, and Atlantic Lottery. Good pick from Ian, their experienced caber tosser. Great community of athletes up there in Perth Andover. $11:55 for Ian Barclay. 5 minutes off the perfect 12 o'clock. For some of these athletes, where it's not the heaviest stick they've ever thrown, it is going to be a bit of an accuracy event. And something that will help with that accuracy is speed. We do not measure the cable where it stops rolling, it's where it first slaps against the ground. So generate a lot of speed with the perfect throw. Choice with the perfect throw. Here's Drew Garvey. Searching for that perfect 12. 12 o'clock, perfect throw for Drew Garvey. And he tried to break the caber like a jerk. We'll give her a bounce here. Oh, we may as well keep going. But nobody do that, okay? Yeah, we can't blame him for being too good at the event. He had such good speed down and whipped right over. All right, opening the second round, we do have athletes that are going to chase that 12 o'clock in this lower division. Isaiah Purley is leading the novice division in the 12-10. Now, we mentioned earlier about Scott Bishop, how, he's a young man, he had a growth spurt over the winter, so he's a lot taller. Very advantageous in the caber. If he's 6 inches taller, the caber is effectively 6 inches shorter. Excellent pick from Scott, very well practiced. A tribute to dedicated training. $12 o'clock, perfect throw for Scott Bishop, well done. So folks, what's the only thing that will be the 12 o'clock? 2 12 o'clocks. So there's still time. That's a great joke. So that's the youngest man in the competition, dominating that stick. Here's Liam Kell. Good decision. He wobbled on the pick, so he may as well get a mark. 22 degrees, says head judge Billy Morris. So Liam does a good job, even though he didn't have a great pick, he still got a mark. Folks, this is the second last event here at the Canadian Junior Heavyweights Championships. We'll still have one more event where we'll invite everyone in nice and close. Ask you to be extra loud. Here's Patrick Lyons from Alpine Forest. Degrees, improving every time, that line. So this is a 14-foot, around 83-pound caber. Over the weekend we're going to see cabers in the range of 21 feet and 108 pounds. And Sunday, I believe, but don't hold me to this, that the challenge caber is 19 feet 4 inches and 133 pounds. Frank McFarland really wants to get this caber.
How are you?
He is one of the better caber tossers in the novice division. And I think if he stops a 12 over here, folks, there's going to be a bit of a celebration. Held up now from Williams Point. 38 degrees.
Can I hold your hand? Let's hold your hand.
Who's used to being fed? Hurry. Turn his back to me. That was good. He looked right at me. Just looked right at me.
Alright, welcome back. Use the front side down beneath your feet as well. We'll be facing southeast on our way down. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
So we're traveling at the same speed down, is that?
Yeah.
Just swallow. 是直接下去，直接到了第一。
I'm more interested in the superstructure and how they did it.
So welcome to the ditch. This is one of the main lines of defense for this fort and runs all the way along the walls. One of the most common questions we get about this area is, why isn't there any water in this moat? Does anyone want to guess why it's so dry down here? Why? Well, it's actually quite simple. It's because this isn't a moat. Just a ditch. The idea with the water-filled moats comes from the medieval time period when you had the knights in their heavy suits of armor, and if you're wearing one of those and you fall in some water, you'll sink like a rock and drown. So by this point, we had the black powder muskets and rifles, and they'd stopped wearing that heavy suits of armor, and if you're not wearing all that weight and you fall in some water, you get a bit wet, but you can still swim to the other side and climb out, so it's not the best defense anymore. However, with a nice big ditch like this, it's actually dug down right into the side of the hill, so if you're standing at the bottom looking up, you can't see that there's a ditch here until you're right on top of it. And if you're running up this hill and you suddenly see there's a ditch right in front of you, but there's 100 of your friends right behind you who don't know there's a ditch here, so they're running forward, it's a little hard to stop suddenly. And then you'll fall down here and break your legs. It's a little hard to take over a fort when you can't get up and walk. We also do have a couple other things in case enemies manage to get this far, if they're maybe using ropes and ladders to climb down or digging a tunnel into the side. See along this outside wall behind me there's a whole bunch of narrow little slots in there. Well, there's actually a tunnel running all the way along the outside wall. If an enemy force ever managed to get up to where we are now, there'd be a rifle sticking out of every one of those narrow little windows there. You can see we're pretty out in the open here, nice and exposed without much to hide behind. So if you ever did get this far, you'd still be in quite a bit of trouble if you're trying to climb up these walls. Are there any questions so far before we head down this way, and I can point out a few other things about around the ditch?
And chasing that record, guys, watch out. She's 2 feet off the Canadian record. She's settled in. She's got her foot placement. She needs some help now, folks. Let's cheer Susie on. She goes to St. X. Great track athlete. She needs 2 more feet for a Canadian record. Susie Lajoie. Come on, Susie. Oh, out there. That's going to be a little close. I don't know if that's it. 87 feet 3 inches. That is 1 foot off the record. That is painfully close. But we might give Susie one more attempt, as she is the winner of the event. We'll talk a little bit about that after. Just a couple more throws in the 16-pound hammer. Here is Sean Morrison, all the way from Saskatchewan. All right. Good recovery. Had a foul on that second round throw. We'll get the measuring tape on that as things wind down here in the hammer. 2 more athletes to go, then a couple more extra attempts. All right, here's Blake McGinnis now, 3rd and final throw. Oh, that's all right. That looks like his best throw of the day. $58 feet even. All right, a couple more throwers here, folks. Then we're going to turn things over to the magician over on the main stage. Ian Barclay now getting set. Ian went around 85 on his second round throw. Let's see if Ian can take this 16-pound light hammer over 90 feet. I think he can do it. Come on, Ian. Pardon me? Not really. First place. Yeah. All right, that's out there. Well, let's see where it is. "81 feet 3", so down a little bit, but still a great series of throws from Ian. All right, so with that, that means that Drew Garvey is the winner of the 16-pound hammer, but he still has one more throw. All right, so here's Drew Garvey. Drew had a foul on his first throw, then went over 100 feet on his second throw. He's got more in the tank. Come on, Drew. Oh, that's big. That's big. Wow, 107 feet. 1.5. All right, folks, with that concludes the competition portion of the throws. However, we're going to give each division winner one extra attempt to try to better their mark or beat a record. So that means Isaiah, Susie, and Drew will each be given one more throw to try to break or better their score or break a junior record. Isaiah Purley is going to start things off. Isaiah had a best throw around 85. The junior record is 88 feet 4 inches. So he is just a mere 3 feet off that record. So it would be something if we could get a couple of junior records from these throws. So let's help him out, folks. First extra attempt for a record. 13 to 16-year-olds. Oh, look at that speed. Whoa. Oh, and there goes the clevis on the hammer. "84-3", so still a great throw. Okay, well, yeah, while Al McFarland fixes the hammer, Susie Lajoie is going to get in there for her attempt. Now, Susie, last throw was 1 foot off that Canadian record at 87 and change. Her technique is starting to feel a little bit better. I was overheard her saying that she's working out some of the kinks. She thinks she figured out what she needs to do. So the last point will be for some crowd help. Susie Lajoie, new Canadian record. 88 feet 89 will be a new record. Come on, Susie. Come on, Suze. Oh, unfortunately that is a foul throw. Those things happen. Okay, so that just leaves Drew left. All right, Drew Garvey now is going to finish off the extra attempts for the junior throwers. Drew had a 107-foot throw. The junior record is 111 feet, and that's held by a thrower named Josh Goldthorpe, who's from Ontario, who set that a few years ago. So Drew is more than capable of hitting that. He'll need a big effort. That would be a 5-foot improvement from his best throw of 107, but he's done it before. Drew Garvey, folks, let's help him out. Whoa, that's a lot of height on that, but we'll have to see what the distance is. That hammer went a long way up in the air. 104 feet 11. So a great series there. Okay, folks, before we turn things over to the magician on the main stage, we're going to give Susie Lajoie one more attempt to break that hammer record. All right, so we'll get Susie set up here. This will be the final throw of the hammer. Chasing that Canadian record. She needs just another foot. Her technique is right there. She just needs to make sure she's hitting her spots. Help her out, folks. Oh, that could be the throw. All right, let's see what it is. 92 feet, 11 and a half. A new Canadian record. Wow. Great throwing. A fantastic effort. You could tell as soon as she let it go that that hammer was going to fly. Susie Lajoie. All right. Okay, folks, with that, we're going to turn things over to the main stage for our magician, and the heavy events will continue over here as well.
Wow, a Canadian record. That's fantastic. I don't even know this girl, but I think we should give her another round of applause. Like we had these papers all rolled up into a little ball. Now, Maya, listen closely to me, because you and I right now, we are going to go and try to find ourselves a little tiny little mouse. Would you mind squeezing that in your hand? Squeeze it super tight, because I have a mouse decoy. Works really good. Don't move, Maya. Don't move. Mouse decoy. Doesn't it look like it's in 3D? Okay. Maya, listen closely, because with the help of the mouse decoy and all of these fine people here, you and I are going to find the world's biggest mouse. And do you remember what their favorite food was? Grown-ups. All right, everyone, grown-ups included, make a set of whiskers. Now let me hear you squeak like a mouse, just like the mouse decoy. But people, listen closely, no pussycat noises. Maya, what happens when a mouse sees a pussycat? They run, right? Here. Pussycat, oh boy. No pussycat sounds. Let's everybody hear the squeaking. Come on. No pussycat noises.
Okay, and cradle the caber in his hand.
Try it. Give me a finger up and down.
Test, test. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test.
Hey, young lady. I think that's quite loud. I think that'll do. Yeah, it probably could go down there. Depends on... Louder, Donnie?
videotaping them.
And these are wild, so be careful. Hey guys, listen. The horn is there for an emergency. Okay, when you are running, emergency, so you're holding the horn with two hands. Don't do that. You're gonna fall faster.
As we go past this, you'll notice a tourist hut coming into sight with a small green roof. Just look beyond there and you'll notice a big pile of rock. Now this is known as the Terminal Moraine, and the Terminal Moraine marks the furthest advance of the Athabasca Glacier from back in 1843. So if you have a look at the glacier now, which is straight ahead and to the right of us, you can actually see how much the glacier's retreated since the 1800s. Also on your right, noticing these piles of rock and debris, these are known as the annual and the push moraines, and these mark the advance and the retreat of the glacier each year as the glacier moves. And hopefully your Ice Explorer driver should tell you a little bit more about moraines on your tour. So I'm just going to ready you up to let them know we're on our way. Okay guys, so just on your left here you'll notice we have a small forest. This is known as a sub-alpine forest. This means that only evergreens grow in this area. Now trees in this area are actually over 300 years old. Now if you look to your far right in the distance across the valley, you can see a triangular shaped forest. Now this is known as the ancient forest, and trees in this area are actually over 700 years old, and they are some of the oldest trees that we have here in Alberta. So you'll notice that the trees are fairly small for how old they are, and that's simply because they have very poor growing conditions up here in the high altitudes. And they've only got about 60 to 90 days a year to grow, and that is during the summer months here in the Rocky Mountains. Also, if you look on your left, you might notice that some of the trees only have branches on one side. Now this is known as flagging, and it's caused by a katabatic wind. Katabatic meaning downhill. So it's a cold and a constant wind, and as it comes downhill off of the glacier, it picks up tiny ice crystals along the way and it blasts the sides of the trees. So it's a little bit like sand blasting. So it's known as flagging because it looks like a flag being blown in the wind. So guys, we're reaching the transfer point now, and today your bus number is 549. It was one of the big white buses, and your driver today is Matt. Please remember to take all of your belongings with you, and again placing any rubbish that you may have in the bin provided at the front of the bus.
Try and make it nice, smooth, even heel. Just going to take out all the sharp edges because the horse interferes. And by that I mean one leg will interfere with the movement of the other leg. We don't want any really sharp edges on the shoe, because those sharp edges are what's going to cause the horse to cut himself. There's a general rule of how it wheels. It's usually 2/3 of the bevel on the inside of the shoe and 1/3 on the outside. That allows the dirt that builds up on the bottom of the horse's foot to clean out. If we just made it square and heel, the dirt and the top shoes of the front would never clean out, and the horse would end up with dirt that's stuck in the bottom of his feet. It's a lot like when we get a piece of gravel in our shoe, we want to clean it out, but we just take the shoes off. The horse can't do it, so we have help on as much as possible.
Right now, she's got a wire brush in her hand. What exactly is that used for? Is she just cleaning up the shoes?
Well, there's an oxidation process that occurs inside the forge where the oxygen that you need to burn the boat reacts with the steel. We just refer to it as slag, but it's actually it's very similar to rust, whereas rust is a reaction between water and iron, and this is just oxygen and iron. We'd like to clean that off because when we're done, we're going to have a really nice smooth finish on the steel, and it really doesn't matter much to the horse what that finish is like, but it's just a professional way of doing things. So she's building the quarter, and Riley, is this a front or a hind shoe? It's a front shoe, so it's going to be more round than a hind shoe. The widest part of the front shoe is going to be from halfway between the toe and the gate. And what Tyler has here in his left hand is a round shoe, and his right hand is a hind shoe. You can see the hind shoe is pointer at the toe, straighter at the corners. The heels are sharper, and there's the widest part is about 2/3 of the way the distance from the toe to the heel. The difference in that, or the reason for the difference in that shape is that the horse bears 2/3 of his total body weight on the front feet and 1/3 on the back feet.
So I noticed on this shoe here, we have something that sticks out in the front. What would this be used for?
What's a toe clip? So ideally we would put the least number of nails in the horse's foot as possible. That's healthier for the horse's foot. We can keep a shoe on with 6 nails, we will. The shoe doesn't stay on with 6, we'll go 7 nails, and then we'll do 8. The shoe still doesn't stay on, we'll put that toe clip on. And what that toe clip does is it prevents the shoe from twisting on the horse's foot. And the perfect mold, the horse's foot would land perfectly flat on the ground, but the reality of it is that every time the horse's foot hits the ground, it's going to twist just a little bit. So if we can eliminate that twisting, we're going to keep the integrity of the nails. So a one-place clip is worth a couple extra nails without actually putting the nails in the horse's foot.
I see. So when you're building a shoe, like you're on the shop, ideally how many horses would the average farrier shoe to make? It looks like a lot of work, so I know myself, I would probably burn up pretty fast.
Let's say a comfortable day would be six full sets of shoes. You do 3 in the morning, then lunch break, 3 in the afternoon, and still be in So right now Riley's pritchling out the nail holes. And it's really important that the placement of the nail holes in the shoe is correct. We don't want any nails at the toe. We don't want any nails further back in the widest part of the horse's foot. The horse's foot naturally expands when it bears weight, and it's an anti-concussive device. And if we place nail holes further back in the widest part of the horse's foot, we limit that natural expansion of the horse's foot.
So I see he has a lot of tools, obviously with different columns and hammers for different I guess jobs on the site, I guess, but so how many tools would the average farrier carry?
Over here on this main building, the bar, and here we do have a barracks room set up. Other soldiers would have lived. We also have some pieces of uniforms there that you can try on and get some nice embarrassing pictures of your friends and relatives from there. So right over here.
Taking a picture of recording.
multiple world champions competing here this weekend in Grade 3. This is one of 3 bands that arrived from the George Walton School of Pipe and Drum in Edinburgh, Scotland. Fine pipe band we have indeed. We're going to move from piping to dancing. Very, very fortunate to have us see these 4 young ladies, all Nova Scotia representatives in the Highland dance competition. We would like to welcome to the stage Aaron Godfrey, Courtney McDonald, Curly McDonald, and Kylie McDonald. Are there any McDonalds out there? Well, let's welcome these girls on the stage, and the piper will be Robert Rennie. Our next performer at the mature age 15 has been playing guitar since he's 12 and has the distinction of having received the highest mark in musical theater at the Glasgow competitions of music each year. Very pleased to welcome Mr. Seamus McLeod, accompanied by Ursula Ryan on piano.
How you doing? Great. I'm Seamus McLeod, and I'm going to be singing you 2 songs this evening. This first one's called The Massacre of Glencoe. Cruel is the snow that sweeps Glencoe and covers the grave, O'Donnell. And cruel is the foe who raped Glencoe and murdered the house of MacDonald. They came in a blizzard, we offered them heat, a roof for their heads, and shoes for their feet. We wined them and dined them, we ate our meat, and slept in the house of MacDonald. Oh, cruel is the snow that sweeps Glencoe and covers the grave, O'Donnell. And cruel is the foe that raped Glencoe and murdered the house of MacDonald. They came in the night when the men were asleep, this band of Argyles, through snow soft and deep, Some died in their beds at the hands of the foe. Some fled at night, got lost in the snow. Some lived to accuse who struck the first blow. But gone was the house of MacDonald, and cruel is the foe that sweet Glencoe, and covered the grave O'Donnell, and cruel is the foe that raped Glencoe, and murdered the house of MacDonald, and murdered the house of MacDonald. Thank you very much. This next song I'm going to sing is it's an old Celtic folk song from Ireland and Scotland called "There Were Roses." My song for you this evening is not to make you sad, nor for adding to the sorrow of a troubled northern land. But lately I've been thinking, and it just won't leave my mind. I'll tell you about two friends one time, they were both good friends of mine. Isaac, he was Protestant, and Sean was Catholic born. But it never came between them, for the friendship, it was strong. But sometimes in the evening, we hear the sound of drums. But we said it won't divide us, we will always stand as one. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. It was early Sunday morning when the awful news came round. A young man had been killed last night just outside Newry town. We knew that Isaac danced up there, we knew he liked the band. But when we heard that he was dead, we could not understand. And fear had filled the countryside, there was fear in every home. Till late one night a car came proud to ride round rock and roll. A Catholic would be killed that night to even up the score. Oh Christ, it's young MacDonald they have taken from the door. There were
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit like a church service here this evening. For the latecomers, there are some seats up here at the front. So anyone that would like to come and sit at the front, there are good seating available. So please feel free to come forward. Well, we move from our younger performance to the granddaddy of this evening's performance. Next we'll have a fiddler who is known well to the province, gave his time and his energy and his soul to the province of Nova Scotia. I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Rodney.
C'est le lac.
And improve canopy, but in the States it was known as the Texan, but here it was an American aircraft, but here North American harbors. And apparently it was quite the aircraft to master too. To fly it straight and that, and yeah. So once pertaining again, going back to the Second World War, the North American harbors, once we were able to master that aircraft, then we were able to fly the service aircraft, Spitfire, Mustang,
Spitfire, and then the Hurricane,
yeah.
and then transferred to.
Well, the person in the Mustang and the Spitfire, and engine.
We ended up destroying 31.
It's kind of a luxury type aircraft, for the gentleman of the day. Yeah. So, enclosed cockpit. Yes. There's the many of these like that. We have the open cockpit. So, it's pretty gentleman of the day. These are luxury type aircraft. And then with the bench at the back, that could accommodate 3 or 4 passengers. Now, there's a gentleman in the summer that flies actually visitors around in an open cockpit version of this aircraft actually. Oh, you did? Yeah. So it's quite the adventure.
Oh, it's great, yeah.
So you get your little, your
Your pilot?
No. But the person that was taking the stats and doing all the paperwork, he was maybe 16 or 17 years old, and he was saying that he was going to fly the plane. Like, yeah, I just received my certificate.
So that was reassuring.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks now, but I'm pretty confident. And my mom was with us, and she wants to have this.
It's like that. But yeah, no, so you fly so it's like quite the game. You can roll down the window too. Well, I mean, it's, in the past, that's not really the goal here to make them. You don't have their certificate, worthy certificate, and that also quite costly to retain. Actually, there's a company in Gatineau known as the Vintage Wings, and they have a beautiful collection of airworthy aircraft.
Well, we have pictures of how better.
sign for the Royal Air Force while they were waiting for their ferry rider and special flight. So somebody was on board. And eventually I put a big dual command and used as a training option. Now this was a part of a lot of the command that eventually was delivered to Afghanistan. Started to Afghanistan was like the early 50s area, yeah. So the Hawker Home. You can rev up the engine. Yeah, any ideas what this is all about? Or,
Auto gyro?
Sorry?
Auto gyro?
Auto gyro. To start up the engine?
Is that what
it's known as a hawk starter. Hawk
Oh.
starter. Yeah. So basically you would hook it up and start the engine.
Okay.
And then yeah, start up the engine actually. Yeah, no, that's it. Because at one point we did it manually, you know, right. So, and this was Chris Hutton, a Canadian astronaut, and it was put together by his brother and his father. It's known as a hawk starter.
Good job.
Any ideas of this aircraft? The purpose of this aircraft?
Well, it's a seaplane.
Yeah, it's a bush plane. And as you know, our bush plane is very popular here in Canada.
Right.
We have one in the museum, the Beaver, which was a prototype, the one in the museum, 1947, and they're still using them today, the Beavers, a very reliable, sturdy aircraft, even though production ceased in the 1960s, they're still using them. But this one, the Fleet Canuck, which was a trainer, and we're looking at the 1940s, something which was atypical at that period, the arrangement of the seats, side by side, because prior to that they were in tandem actually.
Right.
And that, so yeah, and of course can be fitted with different types of landing gear. So you got your floats, skis, wheels, and that. So yeah, the Fleet Canuck.
Well, you guys have isolated parts of Canada, don't you?
Oh yeah, no, well that's well the thing is the bush planes really opened up northern Canada. Back in, you know,
Really, Flying Canada is not more wide.
well, there's also some of the flights too, you know, north or
We started talking about how really large it is.
Yeah, it takes like actually Ottawa to Vancouver by train to get far back. That's like mystery there.
Nobody quite knows.
All kinds of stories behind the disappearance there.
She was a spy.
Yes.
She was captured by the Japs.
Actually, according to a documentary that I saw, apparently she was arguing with a navigator regarding what route to take, and as a result, ran out of fuel and crashed. But there are all kinds of stories, you know, behind her disappearance there. And that. So, yeah, so Lockheed Jetstar, are you familiar with
Well, I'm
looking at a business aircraft.
Right.
1960s and that. And a couple of these were sold here in Canada, used by, I think one or two by Eaton Company and also by the Ministry of Transport. Transport ex-prime ministers and that. And this one, Pierre Elliott Trudeau's aircraft.
Oh,
He was one of our former
we know
prime
who,
ministers.
we know who he was.
Yeah, he's quite the personality. Eh?
He was that.
So we're looking at 9 passengers, 1 flight attendant.
This was his plane.
Yeah, 1960s.
If that plane could only talk.
Yeah.
He was quite a playful.
Yeah, but you know, he stuck to his ground too. You know, he wasn't a pushover for sure. You know, so,
Yeah, that's true.
You know, massive fuel tanks too.
I see that. Yeah.
really many versions, eh? Daytime fighter, nighttime fighter, photo reconnaissance, bomber. Yeah. Balsa sandwich, I think, balsa wood sandwich. And that's it, one of its assets. It's the maximum, they're taking about 600 kilometers per hour, and the miles they had. It was, yeah, because it was light, obviously. And,
I read about it, said the piano company made the frames.
Okay.
Because they were good at making, intricate wooden designs.
Right.
They had this piano manufacturer making the airframe.
Okay. Again, many of these were built in Canada by de Havilland.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a cool plane. That's one of my favorite planes.
No, I know familiar when they get these aviation enthusiasts when they come here and they see it. In the condition that it's in,
it was sturdy and it flew like a wind.
It was,
yeah. But, and they said for its size it's very maneuverable. Take a picture of that. Did you take it?
Okay, yeah, okay. Sorry. And right here, I mentioned at one point the Grumman Goose, American amphibian. I always like to ask, what do you think the period without looking? What do you think? The era. Oh yeah, okay, good. Yeah, no, maybe when I first saw it, maybe 50s, 60s, but yeah, I don't know, it's like 1937, I think that. And so yeah, 1930s. And this one in particular was used by the Artsmen for many, many years, like in 1940s and in 1990s. Various uses, like a lot of these individuals, vehicles, transport personnel, and
Sturgis plane.
Yeah, it was basically really designed for the civilian market and extensively used in Western Canada, actually. Yeah, we'll just go.
That thing's really beat up too, isn't it? Where in the world did y'all find that thing?
Yeah, War Trophy. War Trophy, 1919.
Was that what it was?
It's Canada received about 30 some of these war trophies, and many of them were German aircraft.
Right. Wow. That's seen some action.
Yeah, that's right.
Will they restore these?
You know what? According to the last curator that was here, no. According to him, no. I don't know. That's going to change or.
Yeah.
So right here, pronounced Junkers, not Junkers, Junkers.
Right.
And we're looking obviously at a German aircraft.
Oh yeah, they built
low observation aircraft, all metal, and it was considered as the first all metal aircraft to go into mass production, actually. And that's. And if you notice the wings, corrugated wings. Basically reinforce the wings with no external bracing wires for each other, because many of these had the external bracing wires in it. So, and Junkers too was known for using metal for the skin of the aircraft.
all through World War II.
Yeah, and big planes too. We were built back in 1917, that down about 87 enemy aircraft between May and July actually. And that's so yeah, it was such an aircraft. And if you notice next to the tires, you got your bungee cords. Why the bungee cords? Basically to absorb the lightning shocks. Yeah. Also, I always like to mention, back then the pilot with the silk scarf. Now, why the silk scarf? Many reasons. One
Keep
reason
from being shaken his neck.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of this, so checking out the scenery. So I think it's cold up there, so obviously to protect the neck from the cold. But another reason too, rotary engine. So the whole engine would spin around this fixed crankshaft. And what was used to lubricate the engine? Oil. What kind of oil? Castor oil. So what's spewing out? So what are you going to do? Take your, like it. And also too, when you would land the plane, you'd really have to clean off the plane properly, because everything was, covered in oil kind of thing, right? So,
yeah. Actually,
stop with camels.
Unbelievably small. Okay. Wasn't that the one they used to, didn't they also use it for people running and stuff?
Well actually, initially it was designed to replace the BE-2C, which was an observation reconnaissance aircraft, British. But we figured out, it's a really reliable aircraft, well armed, quite maneuverable, so let's use it as a fighter. And it was considered as the best two-seater fighter of the First World War. And this one right here was powered by the oldest aero Rolls-Royce engine. This one right here, this aircraft right here. II fighter, but this is the Spanish version, yeah. Yeah. Because he's as a trainer for the Spanish Air Force. And I'm kind of more or less looking at a post-World War II aircraft actually. And one of the differences between this one and Messerschmitt F-109, the installation of the engine upright, whereas Messerschmitt F-109, the engine is inverted.
I had no idea until I read about the Messerschmitt. I think they built 30,000 of those.
How many of them are? And it was created by a group of students from University of Toronto. Now, did it fly? Woohoo! Yeah, success. Did it fly? A couple of seconds, about, I don't know, 19, 20 seconds there, but still a success in that it did fly. Very high. No, not very high, but yeah. Just be kind of press on the pedals and so the wings was, yeah.
So are y'all going to assemble it at some point, or?
I assume so, yeah. I don't know exactly the future of it.
Y'all going to have to build
And
it.
you can see also on YouTube too, actually, how
Okay.
it flies.
Okay. You have to build another display hangar.
Well, that's the thing I'm always saying too. It's not a question of, you know, like, it's not like you replace one aircraft with another. It's a question of all the people. You guys mentioned the Victor Vita, British aircraft, possibly.
Right.
1950s, and the thing is, it was considered really as low noise, low vibration, and that was due to its efficient engines, turboprop engines. It was considered the first passenger aircraft equipped with turboprop engines. And I've spoken to some visitors who have had a chance to fly such an aircraft, and really, yeah, quite roomy inside, quite comfortable. And if you notice also the window, the excellent
I like
visibility.
that. Yeah, I like that. Because the windows today, you can see it.
It's like much.
colonial times, rivers that iced over solid, walk across it.
Gardez votre ceinture de sécurité attachée et vos bagages de cabine rangés jusqu'à ce que le commandant éteigne la consigne des ceintures de sécurité. L'utilisation de téléphones cellulaires est maintenant permise. Vous ne pouvez fumer que dans les zones fumeurs. Au moment de quitter l'appareil, assurez-vous d'emporter tous vos effets personnels et soyez prudent en ouvrant les coffres supérieurs, car certains objets pourraient être déplacés pendant le vol. Si vous avez besoin d'aide, veuillez demeurer assis. Nous serons heureux de vous aider lorsque le passage sera libre. Si vous devez prendre une correspondance, consultez les écrans qui se trouvent à l'intérieur de l'aérogare. En cas de besoin, les agents service clientèle à l'intérieur de l'aérogare seront heureux de vous renseigner. Au nom de toute l'équipe d'Air Canada, membre du réseau Star Alliance, merci d'avoir voyagé avec nous. Nous espérons que votre vol a été agréable. Nous serons ravis de vous accueillir de nouveau très bientôt.
French soldiers added to this garrison, and they are the Guards in red. They are here since 1927. There was an affiliation with a British regiment named the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. So every summer, if ever you come, please come visit it. You never know. And you can come and see the ceremony. It takes about 3/4 of an hour. We have a band and film ceremony. Painting of the dog. Just behind you, where they live. It costs about 350 soldiers. The first building here, about 100. This is the soldiers' nest. And this one here will cost 50 soldiers. On each building you will see a name and a date. That's their Battle of Armies. Actually, they have presently 44, but there's 21 on their colors. And we have some from the First World War, some from the Second, one from the Korean War.
British, Indians, or Canadian?
First World War. Most of the civilians were under British fighting. But there was a moment during the First World War where the army, the whole Canadian army, but Canada really formed its real army during the First World War. It formed about 260 units. This one here was the 22nd. The 22nd was different from all the others. Why? Well, the orders and the country working like it was in French. Actually, inside the first division, all the units that were founded, well, they were all units that spoke English, used the English language. So the French Canadians were not enrolling. Didn't understand why, but I'm not understanding the orders that became very scary. And during that time, the Catholics and the Protestants did not mix. So the clergy was also against them enrolling. But that's when they asked that a unit be formed of only French Canadians. And that's how the Voyage and Deuxième Régiment came to be. And they're very well known throughout Canada, probably in the United States, as the famous Vendus. It's a nickname. Vendus is Vendus is mispronounced French word for Vendus. Vendus. Okay?
The soldiers, 159 soldiers going into the summer. The Red Coats, are they British soldiers? Or?
No. They're Canadian. They're part of the regiment. So it's with an affiliation. They are affiliated with, now I don't think they exist anymore. The Royal Welsh Fusiliers. Many years when the British were here, they came here. Okay? And then all of a sudden, inside this regiment history, it became affiliated. And that's when they started to wear this kind of coat. The same, it was the same as the one that the Great Britain came on. It is incredible. Actually, 3 periods we have lived with militaries from different nations. Let's start with the French period. Started in 1608, French colony, and lasted until a battle took place on the plains of Abraham between the British and the French. Now during that period, there were French militaries that came here to protect the colony. Let me show you what they look like. Right. And they built elements of fortification here on this site. You will see that while you're touring. And then came the British, fought the French, won, and then they're the ones who ruled here. And they brought militaries here. Some of them stayed and some came later on in the colony. And that lasted until 1867, they governed here. And that's what they look like. It's chateaus. Yeah. Okay? They are the ones who built the citadel in 1820. We're going to talk about the citadel. In 1867, Confederation, and we become a country. The Canadian period. And so we also have militaries. Right now, we have a regiment. We have 3 bases here. Canadian military. Okay, thank you very much. Now, why did we build this big citadel? Who, after the French left this country, who became the #1 enemy to the British? That's right, the Americans became the #1 enemy. Well, the 7-Year War caused a lot of other countries strongly taxed their colony, and so the Americans wanted their independence. Listen, their colony wasn't too big, and they were certain that they would gain more territory. Let me show you what it looked like then. The American colony then. And this is the whole United States and Canada. They only had this part here. What's red? So they wanted to gain more territory also. So there was a battle, many battles, between the British and the Americans. One of them was here in Quebec City. The Americans did not win that one, but they must have won very important ones because they received their independence and also a little bit more territory, Indian territory. Okay? And then afterwards, of course, the American wanted to expand in their country. Okay? It was normal, more territory. Let me show you. That's what they had gained with their independence, what's in yellow, right next to the red. Okay? And then if you see the green part, that belonged to France. Instead of fighting the French, they bought it. Napoleon sold that part here called the Ohio Valley or Louisiana. Okay? So now they were much more territory. And then in about 10, one of their ships were attacked, warships, by the British. Well, they weren't too happy about that. And they closed their port to the British. And they were thinking of war. That's how it came to be the 1812 war. Also going up north for more territory. Well, after the 1812 war, there was a treaty. The Americans or the British did not gain anything. We still kept the same borders. But still, the British were afraid of American invasion. And that's when they constructed these big citadels, like this. I say like this because it is a French military who really developed this system named Vauban. Go to France, talk about Vauban, everybody knows Vauban. He built about 80 this kind of fortification. This kind, because it has a star shape. Back. And the system here is to cross fire. And it is so well organized, to be honest, that every spot inside the walls are covered by artillery fire. So this one here is very well made. I'll show you what it looks like. Cross fire. I want to go in the place while we're touring and still see that the cannons really facing in a way that the fire crosses. Remember, during that time, nor the rifles nor the cannons were precise, so they needed to cross fire. Okay? Ever since it's been built, there's always been a garrison living inside. It's 1920, it is Le Royal 22e Régiment. I will talk about them. They have quite a wonderful history. Just behind you, you have this gate here. You've probably seen throughout the city the other gates. St. Louis, St. John, they're different from this one. But that's the way they look like when they were first built. So that is authentic. It also is the entrance, the official entrance inside the citadel. Okay? This citadel has 37 acres, so it is one of the biggest and most impressive at this time in North America. Just behind me we have two flags. On this side here we have the 2nd Battalion standard. On the other side you have the flag of the Canadian Armed Forces. This regiment here is an infantry regiment, and they have a motto. It's on this side here. You see, je me souviens. Probably you've seen the Jeunesse license plate. It is a camouflage motto also. And then it means I remember my history, my origin, my language. But for this division, this unity, it means I remember my comrade who died during combat. And during the tour, you will see they have a special way to remember them every day. Any questions? Bonjour.
Bonjour.
That's Amar, Quebec. Welcome to the Citadel, home and residence of Le Royal 22e Régiment. My name is Marjolaine. It's a very old name, French. But you can call me Mark if you wish, okay? A few rules you must follow while you're touring. One of them is to always remain with me at all times. This is an active military base. You cannot wander by yourself. Second of all, do not climb on the cannons nor on the wall. Do you watch the cannons? Good. Because it's for your own security and safety. And third of all, make sure you use at all times. Just do not use your flash. Okay? Usually before I leave, I love to know where you come from. Are you free to say it or not?
Texas.
Texas. British Columbia. British Columbia. Connecticut. Toronto. Well, I imagine in your own city, province, or state, or country, you have a place where you want the tourists to visit, right? Well, us, it's the Citadel. Come on. That the stone is different from the others. They use field stone, while the British had the tools to cut this stone. So most of them came from quarries nearby, and some from Montreal. The drum here was added by the British. It was an old powder magazine. They could store inside about 2,500 barrels of powder. Let me show you what it looked like. Now, you know, it's like wine, huh? Barrels. You know, the enemy of the powder is really the humidity. Every so often they have to turn the barrels, like with wine, to make sure that the powder can stick. They also took measures to mitigate the damage. Here was a wall 3 times its height, and it surrounded this building here. It also has its old buttresses containing the blast in case of an explosion. You'll be going inside this building and look at the ceiling. It has a cold ceiling. There's a reason for that. This is the weakest point inside the building and the strongest outside. If ever it receives pressure from outside, it will close even more. But if it does receive pressure, it's explosion height inside, then it will open easily and the debris and the charge will go upwards instead of sideways. Also notice that it has two openings at each end. They built the powder magazine that way so the military could work inside the powder magazine with the daylight, one coming from the east and the other from the west. Any questions? Canada in 1850, Captain Ash had it built. You know, there was a time where Napoleon had an embargo on the northern countries in Europe, and the British weren't able to go get their timber up north. So they turned to their Canadian colony, and Quebec City became a very important port. And you know the time and the longitude is very important for ships, huh? So this ball here at 1 o'clock was fall and spring, and it would give the time to the ship so they could synchronize with Greenwich. And some also, you can see those kind of buildings like this in Great Britain. Right here, this building here, well, you know, a citadel means the last place of resistance. So they were organized here to live a long siege. They built this building as a hospital. This one had about 75 beds. If you look out front, you will see they have loopholes, gun holes. They would also enable to protect the citadel, if ever retreat behind, if ever it would have been intact. Okay? When the Voyage 22e Regiment came here to live, it became their headquarters. You will see that badge on their forehead. The beaver represents the Canadian animal. It's a very hard-working animal. It also represents the infantry. With so many for its Battle of Honor. You have the crown. I mentioned what the crown meant. I also mentioned the 22. Remember the 22, 22nd out of 260. Also, it's written on it that it is still today a French-speaking regiment, the language and the orders are given here in French. The only infantry regiment in Canada where the orders are given in that language. And you have the motto just below here. Any questions? Then, right now, let me show you where you're situated. If you look, this is actually, if you look at this way, you can see how high on the cliff you are. You're about 100 meters. But when I do this, it's to show you that you're actually here, on this edge here, on this bastion here, and we're going to go on the eastern part of this citadel. We're going to go see a bastion, and I'll explain the buildings, and then we have another museum to see. Denai, then. Denai is like a fort inside a fort, the last place again to retreat. You see it has loopholes, gun holes facing the center. It was built in 1842 because the British developed another, the Canadians. They weren't too happy with the decisions the British were taking. They wanted a government that represented them more. So there was a rebellion close to Montreal in 1837 and 38. And because of that, the British had to bring in more effective from Great Britain and soldiers. So they added on this building here because they were afraid of an uprising from the citizens. It never happened. The citadel was never attacked. So later on, it became a military prison. And I'm going to bring you inside. But I won't keep you. This is a museum. And you will see Canadian artifacts all through the building. A collection of bayonets. You go inside some of the cells and you will see an exhibit from Afghanistan, their last mission. And it's a narrow building. I will ask someone to stay at the end. Shut well the door. Okay? Someone do that for me? Okay? And I'll be in front. Walk forward. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And we'll be going on to the end of the building.
Great attempt from Sean Morrison. All right, Blake McGinnis has a successful toss at 2 o'clock in his last attempt. He'd love to have it 12 o'clock and move up in the rankings. He's picked that soft grass. Blake's a great showman. He moves it over close to the crowd. KG veteran in his first event. He's been competing for 4 hours. Here we go, Blake. Great pick. 63 degrees. You can see it travel a long way forward as it's laying pretty near flat before you get a pull on it. But flipping the caber in your first ever games is a real accomplishment. Here's Ian Barclay's third and final attempt. Excellent pick from Big Strong Ian. 11:50, 5 goals. 10 minutes off the perfect 12 for you. Well done, sir. Here's Drew Garvey looking for a 12 o'clock. This is the final throw on the caber toss, folks. We have one more event for all the marbles. Oh, Billy Morrison's time to break it now. We're going to hang that thing in the pipeline. That's going to hang for all Drew's first year in the pub. Great pick. Always starts off slow. Boom. Whoa. 12 o'clock. He is successful. Well done, Drew Garvey. 3 perfect 12. Good job, sir. All right. So, folks, we're going to ask you if you would like to these upright standards with the Nova Scotia and Canada flags there. You're welcome to move in nice and close. Our last event travels straight up and over the bar. So folks that have been here before, you can lead the charge, move in nice and close. All our athletes will be throwing weights up and over the bar.
Strong lad, I know that. So one of the guys, when the heavy guy said he should be competing against us. You played the high school, played football at the high school, Richard?
Now, before he goes anywhere, folks, we want to invite Marty Guilfoyle onto the field. Marty has been running the junior heavy events for 16 years now, with the assistance of his lovely wife, Barbie. We want to thank them for helping us out again this year and organizing all these things. And we're looking for some fast driving right over now. Now, folks, some of the athletes got together this year. Someone came to us with a really good idea. And we have a little gift for Marty and Barbie this year to thank them for all these 16 years of heavy events, junior heavy events here in Antigonish. Greg Hadley, who has been a 5-time Canadian champion, myself, we all got our starts here long ago. There have been over 100 athletes, probably over 140 have gone through this. Drew Garvey's had a great few years of competition here. And we're going to ask the Antigonish juniors if there's any crowds that are competing. Come on out.
He said you can go in and out.
And on behalf of the heavy events athletes and their families, Marty, we'd like to present you with this field stone here for the wonderful folks. No, you're not getting a golf cart. You're not retired yet. Come on over here on the other side. Nope, Greg Hadley's volunteered to deliver to your house. We have a nice little field stone for you. Marty, we all think very work over the years.
I didn't get that.
This gentleman is the drummer. That drum piece played with the hourly call. The bass is finished by the beginning of the century change. So in charge of the century change here is one of the corporals of the guard who's standing out in the sun on the bridge there. And the new sentry, so the guy who's going to be standing out there for the next hour is the gentleman in the tunnel back to us. So the principles behind a century change is relatively straightforward. what you're doing is you're bringing a new sentry out to replace the old sentry standing in there for the past hour. The guy standing way up there in the back to us has been standing in there for an entire hour. He hasn't been moving much, so he's probably getting a little tired. I bet you his feet are sore, and he's probably bored stiff out of his mind right now. So this is certainly his favorite time of the day when he gets to come off. Yeah, well basically it's just a backpack. It looks a little different than modern ones, but as far as, you know, its function and the way it works, it's pretty much the same. That's actually where the soldiers would have carried all of their belongings when they were on campaign. Because the 78th were a regiment of foot, so basically that means they marched everywhere they went. They didn't have any, you know, horses or wagons for transport. So your average enlisted man would actually be expected to carry all of his belongings in that tiny little backpack, which is, you know, quite significant because there was also a lot of regulation kits that had to be carried in there. These guys are wearing, you know, their full marching dress, so anything they wouldn't be wearing, for example, their undress jacket like this would have to go in the backpack. Their extra fatigue shirt, their extra pair of socks, the Glengarry if they were wearing a feather bonnet, all this sort of thing would have to go in that backpack. So you couldn't really own much and carry much in our time period. So back to the sentry change. So the two sentries have now switched. The two sentries actually talked to each other for a little bit. And basically what they did, the old sentry told the new sentry exactly what his duties are, what he's supposed to do. Every sentry post is a little bit different. So to communicate sort of all the different functions and things you might have to do, the orders have to be passed down from one sentry to the next. It's a very easy way to communicate orders, especially in a time period when a lot of soldiers weren't able to read very well. So now the two sentries standing up there is going to be out there for the next hour. But the Corps of the Guard still has one more thing to do, which is to dismiss this gentleman into the guard for a 2-hour break. Obviously, since sentry's pretty strenuous, you can't stand straight all day. So what we do, you stand for an hour and then you get a 2-hour break in the guard room here. So you just do this in shift works. That's what we do today, since the fort's only open from 9 to 5. Historically, though, they actually would have stood for 24-hour periods. So the way you work this is you actually stand sentry for 2 hours, and then you actually get a 4-hour break in the guard room right there. So that is the conclusion of the sentry change. If you guys would like, you can actually go in and peek inside the guard room, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
More active back when this was still a military base, they'd actually be doing quite some tasks to guard the fort. So they'd be stopping everyone who was coming up and to visit the fort, and they'd find out who they were and what they were doing here. They seemed like a nice person with a good reason. They'd bring them in back here to this room, and they'd have to talk to the sergeant of the guards, and he'd find out who they were and what business they had in the fort. There were maybe merchants up here doing business with some of the men in barracks, things like that. He'd also be searching them, making sure they weren't bringing in any papers with pens and pencils that they could use to take diagrams of the fort's defenses to sell off to the French and American spies. Of course, none of you seem to be spies today, are you? I hope not. Well, so what we do today is the sentries, they stand out there by the front gate for 1 hour, but then they get a 2-hour break back here in the guard room where it's nice and cool and they can talk to people and move around a bit. However, historically they'd actually be doing double that, so they'd be standing either by the front gate or by one of our 2 powder magazines for 2 hours, and then get a 4-hour break back here. And they actually would have had to rotate through like that for a full 24-hour shift from 10 a.m. until 10 a.m. the next day. So you can imagine it's not the most desirable position to have in the fort, especially if it's middle of winter with a blizzard blowing around and things like that. It's not the most fun. So sentry duty was often for the new recruits who hadn't learned very much yet and weren't really very useful for doing anything else around the fort yet either. Not that we do that today anymore, of course not. You may also notice over here we have the corporal of the guard, so these would be the people in charge of the sentries. So a guard detachment had a full detachment of 13 men, so there'd be 9 sentries. They have privates like me and some of the men inside there, and they'd be rotating through the 3 different sentry posts. And there'd be 3 of them on duty at a time with the other 6 sitting back here relaxing. And there's 2 corporals of the guard, like Corporal Archibald here. they'd be the ones in charge of the sentries, making sure they were where they're supposed to be and not passing out or anything like that. And then there would be one sergeant in charge of the corporals and everyone else, keeping track of everyone coming in and out of the fort with a nice guest book to record all those records. And finally, one drummer to play a few calls at different times of the day to let people know what time it was. Pocket watches were quite expensive at the time, and a private like me would be making a shilling and a penny for a day's work, so it would take quite a while to save up that much money. I also noticed that the sentries are dressed quite a bit differently than I am at the moment. However, we are still part of the same regiment. We're both members of the 78th Highlanders. So what I'm wearing is called drill order uniform. So this is sort of the casual wear, jeans and t-shirts of the Victorian Army. It's a bit lighter uniform. It's a bit more comfortable. I don't have all the fancy trim and big buttons to worry about. So this is for things like training. It's like the squad you'll see marching around. They'll be marching around a bit. They're actually some of our newest recruits, so they're just learning some of the things. If you're interested in seeing some people getting yelled at quite a bit, you can find them. So this uniform sort of just for training purposes, doing general work around the fort. To get this one a bit dirty or ripped up, it's still fairly cheap and easy to replace. But the sentries are wearing their dress uniform, that red doublet, much fancier than what I've got. It's that bright red dye puffed up with fancy cuffs and collars, those large brass buttons which need to be shone and polished each and every morning. The whole process to get dressed up like that takes just about an hour. So that's actually what they wear for special things, things like standing sentry, going on parades, or marching into battle. They'd also be wearing that. So sentries do have all their rifle gear with them as well. That little pouch on the front that holds about 10 rounds of ammunition, as well as one on the back that holds about 30 more. Of course, the bayonet in the back as well, in case someone gets a little too close. These rifles do tilt. They'll take a little bit of time to reload, not as much as the muskets, but still about 5 or 6 seconds. If someone's a little bit fast, you can pull out that bayonet, and suddenly your rifle is also a spear. It's quite useful. So, are there any other questions for
guys are doing is they're just basically practicing the drill they already know. So you can see they have rifles with them. They use the Snyder Enfield rifle. So they're basically going to be marching around, sort of practicing the drill and that sort of thing. In about 3 minutes, I believe, we actually have a recruit squad. So unlike these guys who already know what they're doing, our recruit squad, these guys right here, exactly, this is actually their second day on parade. So they actually, of course, they're literally learning, how to march, how to stand like a soldier, how to do turns and that sort of thing. Basically everything is new to them.
Now, they didn't have women.
They wouldn't have, no. They would have actually had soldiers' wives. I don't see any right now. Actually, yeah, there's one over in Capport. She just went into the barrack room there. Soldiers would have had their wives. The drummers came with very, very young boys. But normally in the actual military, you wouldn't have had women. It wasn't really pretty good. Nowadays, though, of course, equal opportunity and all that.
What are the names? Are you really I don't see oil and on those
season.
I don't know whether it took or not, man. Run 'em.